Hello.
Hello there.
What is your name?
Dave Eggert.
Dave, where did you grow up?
466 North 4th Street, near 4th and Guilford,
In the city of Lebanon.
in the city of Lebanon.
And who were your parents?
Jim and Nancy Eggert.
What did your parents do?
My father worked for Hershey Chocolate. My mom was a housewife, although after he passed away, she worked at the sheriff's office, and she worked there for 14 years before she retired.
Did she work for Mr. DeLeo, or who was the sheriff?
It was Sheriff DeLeo.
And did you have any children?
Yes, I have two daughters, Kendra and Caitlin.
Did you say your wife's name?
My wife's name is Shelley.
And what did you do for a living?
I worked for Hershey Chocolate for 29 years. 1 year in production, 29 years in utilities, and worked with regulatory programs and in environmental area.
A man after my own heart. Okay, and then when did you retire?
Retired from Hershey in 2008. Still not retired.
What are you doing these days?
I do zoning. I'm a zoning officer, code enforcement officer, do stormwater work and building code inspections, and work part-time. I'm an elected supervisor in South Lebanon Township, but I also work part-time there doing property maintenance inspections.
You're a busy man.
I am.
Well, you know, there was this group that I heard about called Lebanon PA Over 40, and I started following it on Facebook, and then there were luncheons and dinners and things, and somebody told me that you founded this whole thing. How'd you come up with the idea, and when did this happen?
Came up with the idea, not even sure how many years ago now. Probably is 9 or 10 years. It's a long time. But I got in touch with somebody that I'd gone to high school with, hadn't seen him since we got out of school, and just through common conversation on Facebook, we said, boy, we ought to share this. And I thought, okay. And I started the page. It was kind of a whim, and I remember him telling me, he said, well, we're up to 600 members already. Now it's over 7,000.
In 8 years, 7,000 members. That's quite a legacy to leave for Lebanon County, you know that.
Okay.
Okay, well, you know, what has been your best memory, or what do you like best about the Facebook page?
This is a lot of it right here. We have great people, a lot of friends. We have a lot of people have reunited through this. People that haven't seen each other, talked to each other, or just went their separate ways 35, 40, 50 years ago. And sometimes it's somebody who was a friend of a family member that may have passed away, but it's the connections. It's fun sharing the memories, and the connections are awesome.
Do you learn anything?
Always. John Nye is a wealth of knowledge. And Mr. Hartman here, he's pretty much our resident photographer. We have several, but Jim's pretty much, he's posting his pictures regularly, beautiful pictures.
Well, that's really interesting. Now, I also know that you were involved somehow with some fire companies or something?
Yep, grew up right down the street from the Rescue Fire Company at 4th and Lehman. And as a kid, we used to race some of the neighbors down to the firehouse, even though we couldn't do anything, but we would race them down there when they were going for the truck. Did that, and so kind of grew up with it. When I was 5 years old, knew how to read the game well system and all that, but hung out at the firehouses when I was 16. Matter of fact, as soon as I turned 16, I was able to join the hook and ladder as a junior fireman, and stayed with the fire department. I'm a life member of 5 of the 9 companies in the city, and also ran ambulance calls.
Talk about some of the fires that you've been to, and what do you remember about them?
A lot of fires. I would say of all the fires that I did fight, Miller's Lumberyard was the hottest. That night there, and we have one of our career firefighters now retired over here, but I do remember that night some of the damage that was done to the rigs as we were fighting the fire just from the heat. Had a few people, Dick Schalk, who was the operator of the rescue, He suffered burns on his hands just from operating the ladder controls. The heat was that hot. The Independent, I believe a window had blown out and melted the lights, emergency lights. We had reflective lettering and lights on the hook and ladder that were melted. And yeah, it was a very, very hot fire. So that was one of the most memorable, but there have been so many over the years. The Hack Fire, of course, that was devastating, but even others. It is a brotherhood. It's mutual aid because there are so many companies. You know, we can't do it on our own. There are many times we have to depend on each other for support. And, some of the other big fires, Sunset, of course, was huge, and so many neighborhood fires in the city over the years.
So I see some of these places actually posted on Facebook with pictures and things. Can you tell people where Miller Lumberyard was located?
Miller's Lumberyard, 6th and Willow Street. So where Fulton Financial has an office now, was formerly Lebanon Valley National Bank. That was Miller's Lumberyard. My grandparents on my mother's side lived on it would have been the southeast corner of 5th and Willow, and my father and my grandfather at that time owned the Willow House, which was on the opposite corner. So we were in that neighborhood a lot as well.
And was it the Hawk Brothers building that burned?
Yes, yeah, for the Hack Fire. It was the former Hawk Brothers, but Harpel's was went along with it, the old Academy Theater.
What's the address? Do you have any idea?
No.
It's around between, is it 6th, 7th, and 8th Street? Between
7th and 8th, yes.
And then you also mentioned one other fire. Where was that located? Sunset.
Sunset Fire on North 7th Street in North Lebanon Township.
And how about your ambulance calls? Who did you run with, and what's something memorable there?
I actually started out with the Independent First Aid Unit, which is now gone, of course, but started out with Independent First Aid Unit when I was 17, became an EMT. I ran with them for several years, then I went out to First Aid and Safety Patrol, but I also worked for Jim Ruffner with Mobile Medics as well.
Okay, now I'm sure there's something I didn't ask you that I should have. What do you want to tell us that I didn't ask you?
I really can't think of anything that you didn't ask me that I want to tell you, other than it is great. I'm sorry that our big blowout that we were going to have a few years ago did not materialize. Basically, it would have been a logistical nightmare because we did have a lot of interest, and there was actually there were quite a few people meeting out here trying to get it set up. But until it was said and done, between financial sponsorships and the timing of it all, and actually even being able, there was a tournament going on at Coleman's Park that same weekend, and one of our co-organizers was trying to negotiate with them, and they said, we can't do it. They said that's a big thing, and it was an annual event, and we just couldn't come together on it. But I mean, that's one of the things that I'm really sorry for. I'd still like to see this group, though, get together. We have so many people here. We have so many common interests, of course, but there's so much that we can do as a group, too, for the community. One of the things that John and I had discussed was the possibility of maybe doing some decades dances periodically. And maybe doing that, and basically proceeds, or a good percentage of the proceeds, would go to possibly United Way or the Historical Society, or maybe various groups.
And you guys did organize something over at Hilltop Playground.
Yes, Bob Portner was Bobby was pretty much, he was very much an organizer of that. Several other people in the group helped with that, and it's been a big boom for Hilltop. And it's great, worthy cause. It's the only independent playground in the city anymore.
Well, I think that's really cool. Does anybody have a question that you think I should ask him that I didn't ask?
When was the Miller's fire?
When was Miller's fire?
That would have been in 1982, I believe.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you because this is our kickoff for the oral history project for the Lebanon PA Over 40, and we have so many historians here. We'd love to record a little bit about their lives, and so if somebody has a story they'd like to tell, it's all about storytelling. I hope that they'll volunteer, come see me, and we will get you on a future day. We were talking about maybe Mr. Hartman and where'd he go? Warren Parks maybe, and if anybody can talk John Nye into it, we'd love to do John Nye. It was because of him this idea came around. So thank you for your attention, and sorry to interrupt your conversation, but hopefully you enjoyed this. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. You have to wait. There you go. Wave. Hi.
The hard part is they don't wait. They said,
Hi, Jo Ellen.
As a supervisor.
Watch. She's got
You ladies are going to be on Facebook pretty soon. London City. Hi, Tom. Hi, Bonnie.
Oh my gosh, is she still alive?
Hi, Gwen.
I thought you were running for office.
No.
I'm trying to figure out if he was selling drugs or...
good idea.
So I went. I know. I think that was wonderful. We were talking before about having some kind of program because all you do is come here and eat. So your program was great. That was good. Hope it continues. Thank you.